Hello, listeners. It's Lisa Starr and Win Business back with another episode of StarrCast. So it's still early in the year, and we talk so much about trends. If you are connected with me on LinkedIn, you might have seen the newsletter I sent this week, which addresses the trends. We get all these trends report in January. But I thought it would be interesting to delve into the trend lists and see how they apply in the real spa world. So, on that note, we have an impressive guest today who's agreed to join us and talk about just that. I'm happy to welcome Jessica Shea, Vice President, Wellness, Retail, and Leisure Operations for Hilton in the Americas. So, thanks for joining us, Jessica.
Thank you for having me, Lisa. So happy to be here.
Thank you. Well, we were together January, I guess, and I think it was right before the trends came out, all the various lists, and you and I were talking about, how do we put these into operation? We get trend lists from Global Wellness Institute, probably the main one, but you've also got Well and Good and McKinsey and uh, Euromonitor puts out a good list, and of every other publication, right? The National Retail Federation, um, different travel agencies. So, you try and comb through the trends and find some thread. And I know you, being so proactive at Hilton, we're already doing that, and you have your own trend list. So let's talk about, let's talk first before we dive into the trends about how you as an executive prepare for the trends and how you make that work in your business model.
Yeah, it's a great question. And obviously, you and I, being in the industry for quite a while, we've probably gotten used to some of these trend lists and how to respond to them. I think it's two parts. Hilton, we do a lot of customer insight work, and we start early on understanding what our customers are looking for and developing our trends report, which we release every year. And so I think those are a great reflection on what we're truly seeing in the hotels and in the industry, because it's taken from our guests. So that's the first thing that I kind of lean into and contribute to based on what we're hearing in our properties and in our spas, to contribute to that list. There's been some great things that have come out of it. In 2024, it was dubbed the year of rest and relaxation. So right in our wheelhouse. And in 2025, the year of the travel maximizer. So people just getting the most that they can out of the trips and being at their best when they are traveling. So, we've really been thinking about how to bring that to life in our hotels.
Mm-hmm.
I think for the greater industry trends list, I mean, this is what I tell my team all the time. I think it's wonderful to find inspiration from trends, but the trends shouldn't define your business strategy. You should have a business strategy and then look at the trends that sort of show you a journey or a pathway or the evolution of your business strategy, or apply to your core business strategy already. Because if we just went around trend chasing, as I call it, that's not a very viable business model. So
No.
how do those trends really support what you do, or show a real clear path to what's next in what you already are doing well?
So, Jessica, you said that you get information from your guests, which obviously is a great way to learn what people want. How do you do that? I
We
mean,
have a
I
whole
stay at a lot of Hampton Inns. They haven't asked me lately what I'm planning for wellness. Maybe I'm not high end enough.
we have a whole customer insights team. When I say team, it's a very large group within Hilton. So they do survey guests, they survey Hilton Honors members, they have different pulse checks, different methods that they use to get direct feedback from the guests. And of course, we have our stay score surveys, which really look at the overall stay. Where guests can apply commentary to things like that. But we can go to that team and say, we can ask for specific research to be done. And then they're always bubbling up constantly, pulse checks on our Hilton Honors community is generally who they're speaking to.
Well, that's a great advantage for you. I mean, you have how many thousand people in the honor system? I mean, hundreds of thousands, right?
Yeah. Millions.
Yeah, millions.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of people to get some data from. That's a good place to
Mhm.
start. But I like your point of your distinction of not managing to the trends. And um, my husband makes me laugh. He's always saying in January, we're talking about trends. He's like, if it's only a year, it's a fad. It's not a trend yet. Like you need more time, but we in the media, people like to think of exciting reasons to go to spas. And of course, we're happy to support that, but they're not all applicable. So I want to start with the Global Wellness Institute list, which we will call the big daddy of wellness industry list. That comes out in late January. They always
Mhm.
have 10. And there were a few on there that were interesting, I thought. I'm going to speak to the number one, which was analog wellness. No surprise that consumers are turning away from screens, although I have to say I haven't seen that yet in my neighborhood. Everyone is still walking around with their head in their phone. But I think what they mean is, in a general sense, we're tired of it. We want like real activities and logging off. What are you seeing in that realm?
Um, I think our resorts are a really good example of what's possible. I mean, if you're going to turn off a screen, what are you doing with that time?
Hmm.
I think people are always going to use their screens. We're never getting away from that, unfortunately. And I think there are little tips and tricks we see out there for that purpose. But I remember when my daughter was younger and I was concerned about screens, I think it was her pediatrician who said to me, it's not so much we're concerned about what they're doing on a screen. And this wasn't social media. I mean, she was like 5. It was just like
Of
watching a
course.
movie or something.
Right.
She said it was it's more so what they aren't doing because they're watching a screen. Like what could they be
Mm,
doing? What could
okay.
you be doing instead of watching a movie? Getting outside, playing with friends, being in the community, being
Hmm.
social, resting, whatever it is. And I think that's where we have an opportunity within spa, within wellness, within hospitality to offset screen usage, because I think immersive travel is like the great analog equalizer, right? If you're in a destination and you're truly there and being present with that place, that's the best kind of analog experience you can have. So I think when it comes to spas, we really like to look at truly kind of transformative, immersive experiences that attract all 5 senses or pull in all 5 senses, so you don't feel like you're missing screen time, but you are completely sort of lost in the experience. And that's really easier to do in locations like Hawaii or Mexico, where you have these deep healing traditions that involve sound, sense, touch, a sense of spirituality, where you can spend 2 or 3 hours just getting lost in that experience. I think that's sort of the greatest gift we can give people to help them calm the mind,
Hmm.
center themselves, and don't feel the impulse to grab that screen.
Hmm. Do you have issues in your spas across the Americas with guests wanting to take their device into a treatment room, say, or a lounge with them?
Yeah, I feel a couple different ways about this. I mean, it's a wonderful experience to take photography of when you're not compromising the privacy of other guests. I
Sure.
think photographing our spas is wonderful. They're visually appealing. I'm all for that. Look, if somebody can't needs to be on their phone, if they need to text during a massage, like that's their problem. It's not
Hmm.
mine. And we can do what we can to try to show them the light. But at the end of the day, we can't control other people's behavior. We can just sort of give them the opportunity to disconnect and leave it up to them. The only time I personally take kind of issue with it is if it's compromising another guest's privacy.
For sure. For sure. So do you encourage guests not to bring their devices with them?
Yeah, I'd say we encourage it. We have different, some spas feel strongly more things like that. But I think it's lightly enforced, and I think that I'm saying that in all spas I've ever been to, I haven't seen a phone police officer coming around. You see the
Mm-mm.
sign, and then look, I'm guilty of it. I bring my phone in every spa I go to because it's my job to
Right.
understand the
Right.
spa, and I take photos and I make notes, and I do that, and I get upset when somebody tells me that I can't. It's really not up to them, as long as I'm not compromising somebody else's experience.
Yes, for sure. Well, I think you make a great point, Jessica, about giving the guests something else to do, right? Something instead of the screen, because it is so easy. It's in your pocket to play your game or do the Wordle or look something up. Um, but it is really nice to put it down and look around, especially in some of the gorgeous spa locations that are in for any company across the US, but Hilton in particular, Conrad's, Waldorf's. I mean, please enjoy the spa, put your phone down. Uh, so will you do anything like to highlight that trend in your business model? Do you bring this up to your associates?
Um, I think we just focus more on the experience because to
Hmm.
your point, let's make the experience something you don't want to miss a minute of.
Hmm.
That's our job. Our job isn't to go around telling people what they can and can't do and being all, directive about it. Our
Hmm.
job is to make it so compelling and so appealing that you don't want to miss a minute of it. And
Right.
if we can succeed at doing that and offering opportunities for them to take mental breaks, to rest, to recover, to recharge, to reduce stress, and educate people on that, of course, at the opportunity to say, hey, like let's put those aside and do some meditation or whatever it is. I mean, I think it's more of a suggestive sell to try to show people how else they could be spending their
Hmm.
time.
Right. Here's an idea. Look around you, go, or of course, luckily, water treatments are not really conducive to having your phone with you. So there is
Right.
that. Um, The second trend that Global Wellness put out was sauna reimagined. Now, I'm sure you're hearing it. I certainly am. Like, as a consultant, the calls about bathhouses and sauna are coming much more quickly than even traditional spas at this point. Everybody wants a piece of this. And I'm thrilled about it because it's fun, it's social, it's healthy. I like it, but it's not exactly a new thing, right? I mean, the heat and contrast therapy has been around for years, and many locations have wonderful saunas and spa thermal areas. We're not as developed, I would say, in the US as some other parts of the world. What would you say you feel about that sauna trend from the Hilton perspective?
Well, speak about it personally first. I am sauna obsessed. I
Mm,
love saunas, especially traditional dry saunas, and being as you have been, I know, in Austria and
mm.
places like
Yeah,
this where
oh,
you can
amazing.
enjoy traditional sauna and Aufguss and all these, it's amazing. And um, it is, as you say, so interesting that it's such a traditional form of recovery and wellness, yet it's getting such it's on the speed train now, which is great. I think from our perspective, or what I see the opportunity is to see how all of this fits into what we do at Hilton, because
Mhm.
you are going to see contrast bathing pop up in every strip mall. I mean, it's like a chain. It's like it's so big. It's a chain now.
Mhm.
So being such a large company, we're not always the most agile. And I don't
Mhm.
necessarily see us, popping up contrast bathing suites everywhere. I see us doing it when and where it's appropriate and understanding our guests in specific markets and in specific hotels, what they have time for, what they don't have time for. It really varies. I think one of the places that we're really talking about is our urban hotels that maybe we want to infuse wellness, but they don't have a spa. They have maybe a nice fitness center, and we want to kind of provide additive experiences
Mhm.
for the road warrior, because a lot of our those big convention hotels, that's what people are there for business, and
Mhm.
unfortunately the reality is they probably don't have time 3 hours to spend in a spa anyway.
No.
But what can we do to help maintain the sort of healthier routines they may have at home? How can we support them to be their best for conferences, for meetings? I think where our opportunity, and I know this is a little bit more than sauna, but just hydrotherapy and contrast bathing in general is there as sort of a recovery addition to fitness. That's one place I think we're going to see a lot more of it. And then, as you mentioned, I mean, every new build spa that we're working on has much more extensive hydrothermal and sauna experiences than
Mm.
ever before, which is so exciting because I know people like you and I are passionate, and I would have had it in every
Absolutely.
spot every
Right.
time. But it's not always the cheapest to build. So it's great to see this momentum, especially with owners of hotels who now understand, because it is such a trend, how important it is. Maybe they do it personally at home or whatever it is. They're much more open to the idea of building
Mm.
more extensive thermal facilities, which is excellent.
Do you think that was helped along by COVID? I feel like it was, at least in the sense that, owners were so focused on revenue from treatment rooms, and that's how they saw a spa, right? It was a place where there were treatment rooms and people and the guests went there. And now I think it's really opened up the sort of wellness experience beyond the walls of the traditional spa, and it has opened the eyes of owners to different revenue streams that maybe aren't as high, but they have a different value. Do you think that's happened?
Yeah, I think it's ironic because, saunas and steams were the first things we had to shut down
I know.
during COVID. And everybody was like, oh my God, will we ever get to use these things again? It was
I
like
know a
crazy.
sauna. What could live in a sauna? I mean, of all the safe places, to me, I was shocked at that one. But
I know it was like the biggest headache too. But yes, I think it's a side effect of the wellness boom coming out of COVID. I'm not
mhm,
sure that owners truly understand, or it takes a little while sometimes to take some of them on the journey of why these hydrothermal experiences are a good revenue stream and a good business model. It often comes from a passion point of theirs in the beginning because of this like trendiness that
mhm.
wellness is big. I know there's infrared. I know there's cold plunges. I see them on my social media. We need that in my hotel. It's kind of more like that
Huh.
than it is them fully understanding the business model. Like we often have to take them on that journey, which proves out to be quite a sound one most times, and they're very happy with that. But I think it's more of just the wellness influx in
Mm.
general. Yeah.
Do you have resistance to the build out costs? Because they certainly are impressive when you get into these thermal facilities.
Yeah, I think that's really where the work is helping them understand that it may be more expensive to build, but down the road it's more profitable to run. And so
Right.
once we can build out those models and they understand it and understand that it's attracting another kind of guest, like to this
Hmm.
point with urban models or just day use, day pass, half day access, things like that. It's a whole new kind of model for
Hmm.
spa business. So once they see that, I think it makes it a lot more interesting them to pursue the build.
Do you have any sense, Jessica, how many of your North America properties have a day pass option to visit the spa?
Quite a few. It's
Hmm.
actually been a big initiative of ours this year. We have seen a lot of success in our recreation and cabana spaces specifically since I
Mm.
oversee those areas. It kind of
Hmm.
started with that, and so we partnered with Resort Pass to just welcome more local guests into the hotels, into the amenities when they're underutilized, mostly pools and cabanas.
Right.
Resort Pass has grown and really has been focusing on spa a lot, mostly because their customers were asking for it. They had the cabana passes and they had the day passes to pools, et cetera, but they weren't really focusing on spa, but people kept asking for it. Like, what about access to spas? And so they
Hmm.
really focused on that. And we've worked closely with them at kind of building out that initiative because of course, a lot of our spas offer day passes that you can just book directly on the spa's website. And that's wonderful. But what I like about Resort Pass is they're more marketing engine. They offer a platform for people that may not know about a spa in the area.
Can you repeat that? You just got all crunchy on me.
Sure. So what I was saying is what I like about Resort Pass is they're essentially a marketing platform for people who may not know about spas in the areas or wouldn't
Hmm.
know to go to a spa directly to access a day pass. It makes it much more visible
Hmm.
uh, to locals and travelers to a certain destination to come and use our spas. And it has to
So
be
it's
handled.
it's like a class pass, but for resorts.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
That's
kind of,
great.
except it doesn't have a point system. It's just like you
Hmm.
just go on there and you just buy a pass for a day at various spas or hotels. And it just, what I like about it, or what I think is really important about it, is that you need to inventory manage it. It's a tool for
Hmm.
inventory managing. You have to turn it on and turn it off as you need it,
Hmm.
um, as the business can allow, as occupancy in the hotel can allow, depending on how busy you are. But let's be honest, there's a lot of spas that Tuesday to Thursday from
Hmm.
9 to 12 could certainly take more business. And
For sure.
so, then you turn on the opportunity for locals and visitors to come enjoy the spa. It's great. We've had a huge uptick in it. So I think it's a great opportunity.
I agree. I mean, if there was one near me, I'd sign up. I mean, you just there are certain pockets of the country where you find these, and Philadelphia, unfortunately, is not one yet, but certainly
They
on
might.
the
I
West
mean, go to
Coast in New York. Yeah, I have
resortpass.com,
to go
search
check it out.
Philadelphia, see what pops up.
We
I
just
bet
need
you'll be
we
surprised.
we need more saunas is what we need. It's but they're coming. They're definitely
They're
coming.
coming.
So another of the global wellness trends was for teen wellness and sort of greater inclusion. What is there anything Hilton is doing around welcoming teens? Do you like to have teen business in the spa? What's your outlook on that?
Look, I think philosophically it's great and it's important to engage younger customers. I think there's needs there that should be met, especially around kind of skincare, skin health, kind of educating teens on how to look after and take care of themselves, and just the self care message in general. I think is great. We know that age group is crazy flocking to Sephora and on TikTok with beauty stuff. I mean, it's nuts the way that age demographic is gravitating towards beauty and beauty products. So I think there's an opportunity there. I think in hospitality and hotel spas, we haven't quite cracked the nut of being welcoming, also adhering to legal responsibilities and laws, and making sure that the environment is comfortable for everybody. I mean, I think you probably know historically that's been come with a parent, come with a mom,
Right.
or go to the salon. There's some things we have to be aware of when it comes to massage. So I think we're sort of at the beginning of the journey. We know it's an opportunity, but historically we haven't been that quote unquote welcoming. So we just need to figure out the best ways to do it.
Maybe this bathhouse is a good way to start, right? Because we know that they like something communal and social, they can do with their
Mhm.
friends. It's certainly safe for them to congregate there. And of course, in the US, they're wearing bathing suits. So there's that.
Right.
So, maybe that's a way in, as long as they can do it without disrupting the other guests, which is a question yet to be answered.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yes.
I do think it's really nice to teach them from an early age about the value of taking that time for yourself. Not that our youth have any issues taking time for themselves, but the long-term self-care ramifications of having wellness practices, which you and I didn't grow up with. Getting your hair done was a wellness practice, right, back then. So there is certainly a broad palette for them to choose from now in terms of what they're doing to be healthy. And it is, to your point, driven by TikTok. My goodness. Um,
Yeah, and hopefully Sephora and TikTok are the gateway drug into
mhm,
much more meaningful wellness experiences. I mean, it's great that they're into products and body wash, but if
mhm.
that can be the pathway into true self-care and exposing them to things like meditation or massage, or just downtime, again going back to analog wellness, like just away from all of the that's coming at them all the time. Like hopefully that's the journey that we're on.
So you prepared from Hilton a list of trends of your own, which I think you gave me five of them, and they're all super relevant. Let's talk about some of those. The first one I saw being sleep tourism.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, people come to hotels to get a good night's sleep. I mean, that is the main purpose, right, of the hotel room. It's to have a bed to lay in for 6, 7, 8 hours or whatever. So you want to have a good sleep. And we know that. And yet it's only been lately I'm seeing hotels actually have blackout curtains or minimizing all the damn lights in the room with this monitor and that monitor. I'm always hanging washcloths over the microwave and all the lights that are glowing. What what made you choose this focus for 2025?
So it was, it's definitely a collaborative effort. And I think, it's not just 2025. I think it's, as Hilton is really defining our wellness platform, we aim to be the first, major hotelier to integrate wellness meaningfully along the whole guest journey along the chain scale and across the globe. So that is definitely going to come to life in different ways, but we've really are being mindful of four key pillars. Movement. Every hotel is a fitness center. So, that's a key cornerstone to it. Spa and mindfulness,
Mm-hmm.
nourishment or nutrition,
Mm-hmm.
and sleep. Because as you point out, sleep is our core business. I mean, it just sounds like when we say it out loud, it sounds so obvious that we haven't
Right.
been like embracing this for so long. But I think we've finally arrived, and it's a journey, right? Like there's a lot of changes that need to take place over a multi-year plan to get to where we want to be. But programming, the built environment, what's in the guest room, like you point out, what's on the mattress, what's in the bed, what's in the
Mm-hmm.
air, what's in the lighting. Those things are going to be core to what we're looking at in the Hampton Inn to the Waldorf over time, because how you can express that is different across all of our hotels, but it is a very key component to what our wellness strategy is. So I think that's sort of the big goal. Coming to life today to sort of feed into that. We know that, again, as crazy as it sounds, we're not sleep experts. There are plenty of scientists and doctors and, people out there now studying sleep so specifically. So we've leaned into some of those partnerships with the customer insights work I was talking about, some of the research that we've taken on, and specifically enlisted a partnership with Dr. Rebecca Robbins, who's a Harvard sleep doctor.
Right. She's wonderful.
And she's wonderful. And so she's been really advising us on a lot of this. Like, what is going to be so impactful to sleep at a Hampton Inn versus a Waldorf? How can we bring the things she knows to be true when it comes to a good night's sleep to life in our hotels? So she's sort of working on what that programming is going to look like with us. But also in the meantime, she's done a couple of sleep retreats. So bringing guests in so they can meet with her, talk about sleep, understanding her recommendations, and experience some of the things that we can do that are supportive to a good night's sleep outside of just educating us, on when to go to bed and when to wake up. But things, rest and relaxation, stress reduction, foods that support circadian rhythm, what kind of movement should be done in the morning versus the afternoon, how in a hotel, what are the other ways that sleep can be supported? So that's been really fun, because obviously in spas, it's probably the easiest path,
Mm-hmm.
with treatments focused on sleep. And so we have more hotels that are bringing sleep rituals to the menus, offering things like yin and yoga nidra at nighttime,
Mm-hmm.
different partners that create beautiful aromatherapy products that support sleep. So all those kind of goodies that we can bring into a spa has been really a focus as well.
Love the idea of sleep retreats. So, do people come in and then they meet with her and then they practice sleeping in your hotel?
Yeah, so we did one earlier this year at Kililani in
Uh-huh.
Agro um, and it was like a 3 to 4 day program of a mix of lectures with her, kind of one-on-one counseling. But then also we have an amazing chef there, so we got him involved with Dr. Robbins on what you should eat, what you should eat, and at what time
Hmm.
throughout the day, so that you have lighter meals at night, ingredients that support sleep, and then in the morning you're more active and doing, again, sounds pretty obvious, but doing, fitness and spin and things like that early in the morning. And as you wind down throughout the day, the programming lent more towards relaxation, stress reduction techniques, meditation. So it's learning about sleep, but also learning about some rituals and practices that are powering you up or powering you down for better night's sleep.
So, how did it go? Like, what did the attendants say about the
It
experience?
was amazing. It was really well received. We're looking at replicating more this year, and even bringing in, it was pretty focused on sleep. I think we see the opportunity to maybe not change the programming too much, but maybe rebrand it a little bit, because it
Hmm.
isn't just sleep. It's sort of wellness in general, sort
Uh-huh.
of rituals, practices that you can bring in. Um, So it was very well received, and I think we'll do more of it in different kind of iterations and expressions of it wherever we can. Whether it just be, I think we have an opportunity to do like a one night
Mm-hmm.
experience where you could
Mm-hmm.
come in, where people may not have as much time to go to Hawaii and spend a week, but
Mm-hmm.
just become a little bit more educated on how to get a better night's sleep.
Well, we know that we need that sleep and we're so much better with it. And to your point, so many of people traveling are business people who want a good night's sleep. And it's important to get that and not be, I might choose my hotel based on that. If I'm in a certain city, I know a hotel that's next to the amusement park is going to be filled with families and kids running up and down the halls and ordering pizza. And I'm not going to stay there because that's going to impact my sleep and quiet time. So it makes perfect sense, obviously, as you said. Like, of course, people are coming to your properties to sleep. Let's make it even better.
Yeah.
Um, Another trend on your list, Jessica, was promoting recovery, which of
Mm.
course we've been talking all about in the industry for a few years now. The words recovery and longevity were words that we didn't really say in the spa until just recently, but now everyone is focused on them. So tell me a little bit about your efforts on that one.
Um, I think that they are very similar. I'll tackle the word longevity first. And again, I bring this up in terms of like a company like Hilton. How are we, supporting this sort of trend? But really, I think it's very much here to stay. As I spoke to earlier, we know the number one reason people traveled last year was to rest and recharge. And I think, I think longevity, if we read more about longevity and understand it, it's really about a lot about stress, sleep and stress reduction, because just going down to the analog version of it without all the biohacking and wearables, which is kind of another whole topic, I think, our body's response to the constant assault and stressors we are under all the time is a real detractor to longevity, right? Like if we're
Mhm.
constantly in fight or flight mode, and I think you see this a lot in travel. I always joke that I think sometimes travel brings out the worst in people. My
Uh-huh.
daughter's PE teacher, she's in fourth grade, also works at the Delta counter at my local
Uh-huh.
airport. So I see
Uh,
him in both places. And I
uh-huh.
realize that him dealing with a bunch of elementary schools in a PE class is very much like dealing with your common traveler.
It's a
So
good
he's
one.
just like using his cross skills. Um, and because I think people are just like in panic mode, like a lot of people just, it's a very stressful thing to travel, for a lot of people. So I say that to say, what can we do in hotels to help just take out
Bring
the
it down a
friction,
notch,
take
right?
out the stress, bring it down a notch? And I think that's sort of our responsibility, right? Is like make travel frictionless and then give people opportunities to really de-stress, have moments of calm, whether they're there for leisure and can go to the spa or whether they're there for a meeting. How are we helping meeting planners craft more wellness themed agendas or agendas and experiences that support well-being, rest, stress reduction, recovery, sleep a lot more than they traditionally have. So I think we're doing that in sort of different ways, whether it's at a spa that offers sound healing or an urban convention that we can pop up, meeting breaks for recovery breaks, like using hyper ice and those things. It's like giving people mental moments of downtime to just reduce stress is where I feel like we can help longevity. And the same thing with recovery and longevity. I think they really go hand
They
in
are
hand.
connected. There was
Yeah.
a global wellness trend on longevity, but it was more about the effect that having people with longevity are working longer, right? And so they're in the
Mhm.
workforce into their 60s and 70s, which wasn't the case. And now we've got, 20s, 30s, we've got Gen Z and X and Y and boomers all working in the same office. That's a little different than understanding your personal longevity and the
Mm.
whole biohacking thing. I note that you have done some partnership with the biostation at Grand Wailea.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
I'd love you to speak on that. I had Ross on the podcast maybe 2 years ago, because I thought what they were doing is fascinating, and I'm glad to see you glommed onto that too. So,
Yeah.
what did you set up with him with that company?
Well, just more broadly, I think that, it's our opportunity is to action the wearables. Like,
Mm,
people are wearing these things all the time, myself included. They're seeing their biometrics, but what are they actually doing about it? That's
exactly.
that's the question. And again, knowing that sort of sleep is the cornerstone to what this thing is telling me, um, I think that's the obvious opportunity. I think we have partnered with BioStation. We've partnered with some other companies. I mean, there's a lot more of that popping up more and more. It's very much, I think, a personal choice. If you want to take on some of those, I don't want to call them treatments, services, experiences to support and boost your recovery, then I think it's great. And so we have some locations that do have partnerships with companies like BioStation. Um, I think that there's also a certain pressure around it that
Mm,
people have to not put so much stress on themselves. Going back to the stress reduction theme,
mm-hmm,
if you're wearing this thing and it's telling you how you're just screwing up all the time, and
mm,
then you're not really doing anything about it because doesn't feel accessible or easy, I think that's a real risk here.
mm-hmm,
So if we can make it a little bit more, BioStation's great, but you don't have to go to BioStation to improve your longevity or your recovery.
mm-hmm.
Simple
Right.
things like nature walks, sleep, stress reduction. These are all almost as potent as some
Yeah.
of these other modalities.
Well, I like the point you make about the data because we all do have wearables, myself included. But I mean, I might look at my data once a week, honestly, at this point, but I never have a medical professional say, "Hey, let's take a look at your app and see how you're sleeping." I mean, there's so much data there about our behavior that we're not even using. That's a whole nother conversation. But I do think, yes, now what, right? We have awareness. Now, what are we going to do with it? And showing people some opportunities to take actions to influence those numbers in one way or another. Um, the tech is just going to get better, right?
Right.
I
And that's
talked to
and that's
someone
where it,
today that has this that app, excuse me, that scans
mm.
you and it can tell you all about you. Like, what? Okay. So we
But to
need
your
to be
point, I think
prepared.
and it belongs in more of a more medical setting. I don't think personally in hospitality, in spas, it's our business interest responsibility to be, generally broadly speaking,
Mhm.
offering sort of biohacking solutions. And that is an advanced science that should take place with doctors and some of these preventative medicine clinics that we might partner with. But as a hotel company, that's
Mhm.
really that's
Right.
not
Not
what
your
our guests
job.
are asking for.
Right.
I read something the other day that was like, people, like 99% of the impact on our health, our well-being, our wellness is the things you and I know. It's movement, stress reduction, eating well, sleeping
Mhm.
well, all these things you see in the blue zones. Like,
Right.
that is the real stuff. Yet people spend so much time kind of obsessing about this other 5% through kind of wearables and biohacking. And it's like, I think we just need to analog a lot of that and get
Hmm.
real about what's really going on with people's health and stress.
Jessica, it's a great point. I mean, all because you can, as you said earlier, get stressed out about the data, and that's not the point of it. Sometimes we know too much. We grew up not knowing all of these things about our bodies and our habits, and we just went through each day. And were we the worst for it or the best? I don't know. Um, there's sometimes when you want to turn back and just put it aside and say, how do you feel? Right? Think about how you feel and not what numbers are telling you to be stressed out about. But the tech is here to stay. And I
Mm-hmm.
know that was another of your trends, bringing the tech into the spa where applicable.
Yeah, it's connected to what I said before. I feel like our responsibility is for tech to amplify what we already are doing and doing well. Because um, tech for tech's sake is just, it's just shiny pennies. I think
Mm-hmm.
that, an example would be, I think we have an obligation opportunity to really focus on skin health in the spas, right? When we're talking
Mm-hmm.
about skincare, it should be sort of turbocharging our natural resources, our natural collagen, our natural elastin, our natural beauty. Like what can we do to kind of biohack that? I
Mm-hmm.
think makes sense when you talk about the machines and LED and all those things that can kind of accelerate your natural resources when it comes to skin health. That's a good example of using tech, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, Things like, when you and I went to LEC and saw the mind sinks and what's happening with the vibroacoustics, like that to me is super interesting because that sort of turbocharges your journey back to self. It's like hacking meditation. I think Jim maybe said that, hacking meditation, which I thought was really great because those are the things to me, in my opinion, that are really going to help people recover, live longer, healthier lives. So if tech is helping to advance your natural resources and your like natural journey into yourself, I'm all for it.
Mm-hmm. No, I'm glad you mentioned that. Jessica mentioned LEC, that's Living Earth Crafts, and they make spa tables and equipment used in spas. And they have done a partnership with MindSync, which makes music, and they're putting them together and some visuals and auditory and sensory tables that you lay on and the feel of the music plays through you. It does drop you right into a meditative state if you pick, what resonates with you. And I agree, that's a great way to look at it. Many people feel like, oh, meditation is so hard, I can't do it. And it's just stepping aside from the chatter, right? And shutting the eyes and letting the sensory take over, and those pieces of equipment do make it a lot easier. Do you have any of that operating, and can you speak to the consumer reaction to it at this point?
Yeah, we do have it in a few of our spas. We have it in Orlando at the Conrad. We have it in Kilauea in Hawaii. We just launched something cool in New Orleans at the Waldorf right before the Super Bowl. We actually turned, it was a nail salon and hair salon that was very underutilized. So we turned it into a recovery lounge. It's got the MindSync anti-gravity loungers, contrast bathing suite, light therapy masks. And we launched it as Recover Like a Pro because it was right before the Super Bowl. And the response is fantastic.
I
People
love
love
it.
it. They come in, just want a quick recharge. I mean, I think that's the other, again, like accelerating what our body needs to do naturally. When
Mhm.
tech can help do that, that's a perfect example. Like people only have 30 minutes. They maybe are hungover, tired, travel weary, whatever. They can come in there for 30 minutes, feel like charged up, do the
Mhm.
mind thing, just get your mental, your physical, your spiritual, everything just sort of whoop, up in 30 minutes and then go back about your life. Like I think that's super cool. And I think we will be doing a lot more of that.
I think you will be turning many more underutilized nail salons into recovery lounges, because which one would name me a nail salon out there that is not underutilized, at least in a hotel spa? I mean, yeah, it's a challenge, and it's a challenge to have that space and not have it be bringing in revenue. I think that's a brilliant idea, and how great to pair it with the Super Bowl, which, of course, as we know, from coming from Philadelphia, had a very advantageous result for us. I'm still
Of
picking up
course.
green confetti from the streets, but I digress. I'm a proud Eagles fan. So, your last trend, Jessica, that you
Mhm.
presented to me was on communal wellness, and we've really
Mhm.
touched on that in several areas, but maybe you can speak to some of the things you're doing that are focused on making communal opportunities around wellness.
Yeah, I mean, I think the hydrothermal and hydrotherapy, like we talked about, is sort of the obvious one. We have like a Temazcal in
Mm.
Mexico, Punta de Mita, which has been really fun to see people gravitating towards that experience in small groups. But I believe our biggest opportunity, and one of the things we're really focused on this year, and I touched on it before, but is group meetings and events, because that's big business. That's a big part of our business within Hilton. And I think meeting planners, organizers, attendees are just craving newness and craving truly bringing some wellness aspects into the meeting and events space. And I think it starts with agenda crafting. You know, it's like, how many times have we gone to conferences, or do people go to conferences? Their lifestyle routines are all messed up. They've been
Mm.
traveling, they're socializing, so they have to be on, they're networking,
They're
they're
not
up,
eating their usual diet.
they're not eating their usual diet. They're up late at a networking event, and then they expect it to be early breakfast meeting, go all day, and then we're like, well, I hope you learned a lot, performed well, and you're going to action everything you learned at this conference. And it's like,
Mm.
nobody's at their best. So
No.
I think we have a real opportunity to look at how we can make that better, so that when people are there for a meeting or an event, the agenda is crafted in such a way that gives space for recovery, for
Hmm.
rest, for sleep. Um, how can we orchestrate meeting session times so that they're optimal for brain performance?
Mm.
What things can we bring in to optimize how you show up, right? So that you do get the most out of that meeting, and then you go back feeling rejuvenated and can action what you learned with your team and not feel completely depleted. So I'm really interested in that. And we're sort of, we've done it in small ways for sure throughout the years, with stretching and sound healing
Mm.
breaks, and just educating a lot of people on what's possible, because I think they don't know what they don't know, especially kind
Mm.
of meeting planners. Um, but going back to our pillars of, sleep, mindfulness, nourishment, movement, it's pretty easy to look at those and say, okay, how can we better infuse those into the meeting and events
Hmm.
experience? So that is a big focus for me and my team this year.
Well, it's a no-brainer idea, but we're Americans. Like we like to do everything fast and cram it in. And I'm really interested to hear you land a company that sees that with you, that is willing to do that, because it means fitting a little less in,
Mm-hmm.
but maybe they'll remember it more, right? I mean, you said that we're so exhausted by the end of the 2 or 3 days. It's like actionable. I can't even remember what I heard yesterday, so you get this bump from the meeting of energy and excitement, and I learned something, and of course being with people in your industry, whatever that might be. But then you get back to work and it's forgotten in a few days, and you're back in the regular flow, and you're not innovating, and you're not taking action on the things you learned. I mean, how can we make it where there's a lasting effect? That will be, if you can do that, that will get the buy-in.
I think we can be game changers here. I really do. We've experimented with it a bit internally, and I have to tell you, the attendee satisfaction and the meeting planner satisfaction is through the charts, through the roof,
Hmm.
in terms of the feedback. And that's
Hmm.
a data driven metric that
Mm.
companies look at to determine how, when to plan conferences, what sort of resources to put behind it. So I think if we can focus on those things, and show the value,
Hmm.
in that, it won't be that hard of a sell, to be honest. And I also think it ties into things like the move towards low or no alcohol beverages, for example. Like that doesn't necessarily add more cost or time to a meeting. It just offers people other options. So
Right.
I think there's some things that are naturally already there that we can just amplify and bring to life. And then I think if we can start to get the momentum on the data in terms of attendee surveys and responses and meeting planner
Hmm.
satisfaction, it will be in a good place. So more to come, but I think it's all possible.
I think you're right. My money's on you. I mean, we've tried to do something like that at We Work Well, trying to bring in nutrition and stretching and movement and having mocktails and all of that. It doesn't have to be done the way it was done. And I do think people are more open today to trying something new. But that sounds like a great plan, Jessica. And like I say, I think if anyone can pull it off, you can. So In closing, it's still the beginning of 2025. What's the year ahead looking like for you at Hilton? What are the forecasts? There's a lot of drama in the world. Well, there always was, but now we're just aware of it 24/7. So, do you think that our wellness trend is going to continue onwards? Are you comfortable with that? Where are your thoughts?
Yeah, I am. I mean, I think that there's uncertainty in the air for everybody, of course. It's just a weird time.
Mhm.
But Hilton is really in a great position to forge through it and continue to be very successful. I think with wellness, it's about making sure that we're really delivering it in meaningful ways to guests. And I think, a great example of that is making sure that fitness centers are being updated and modernized, and like just getting the basics right is often really important. And especially with fitness being such, I think, a driver of decision making more than ever. I would say, years ago, people would say, people choose a hotel based on the fitness center. I'd be like, no, they don't. But
Mhm.
today, I think that has changed, especially if you're going
Uh-huh.
to a certain market and there's a great fitness offering. I choose some hotels based on that. So that is to say, I think we have a core focus on the basics, making sure our guests have what they need when it comes to wellness. Some of these bigger initiatives I spoke to will keep moving forward, but also making sure we're driving value for our owners. I mean, that's
Mhm.
the people who are the segment that may be going through the most this year, given the economy, is owners, because costs
Mhm.
are rising and employment costs are rising and all the other costs are rising. And so how can we continue to be the partner of choice for our owners? And most wellness offerings, at least in my world, have a good return on them. So
Uh-huh.
we just want to keep the focus on the business too, and make sure that the experience is where it needs to be, and the spas are performing at a level we expect them to perform, and support my teams in the hotels to achieve those goals.
Oh, right. I mean, we're traveling. The bulk of it is a lot of still business travel, and people want to maintain those healthy habits on the road. And if I know for me, it's certainly a factor of the comfort of where I'll be, my ability to work in the room if I need to, get a good sleep, get something healthy to eat. Those are important factors. And I think you're wise to recognize that and build on that. Happily for us, being industry professionals, wellness is not just a thing that happens in the basement corner spa anymore. We've brought it out thanks to the efforts of you and others up into hotel practices. So I appreciate you visiting us today and speaking to these trend issues. And I love what you said earlier at the beginning, Jessica, about the trend. I mean, you can't just jump on all the trends because the business has core values or pillars that it operates on, and those have to be looked at. Some trends come along and they don't match that. And so there's no reason for you to be like, well, we're going to do that one, right? You have to pick and choose. Um, Lastly, in closing, do you have any way that sort of you navigate that minefield of trends every year to find the ones that will work?
I mean, I love reading them. I mean, I love the inspiration too. For me, like I think it's important to plug into the trends that resonate with your business, that I said. But I also, the second part of that, or the other side of that, is finding inspiration for what's coming. And it may not be. I think it was last year, there was like the psychedelic retreats, right?
Right.
Like I'm just going to go out there and say, I don't think Hilton is going to be, supporting psychedelic
Sure.
retreats.
Uh-huh.
However, it does highlight, something like functional mushrooms and how we can bring those into the beverage stations in the spas, right?
Right.
So I think there's like the aspirational and the things that we mine through and read as industry lovers
Hmm.
and believers, that sort of, for me at least, fuel the fire of thought to
Hmm.
think about how I can take pieces of it and apply it to my business today, and also use them to think about the business of the future. And so I look at all the ones you mentioned earlier.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, I really love it.
Well, Well said. I agree. I think we need to get inspiration, and we tend to be navel gazing, right? We are always in our own industry at our own events, and
Mhm.
we're all doing the same things. It's really good to step out and read the other trend lists from different publications. What does the retail industry say? What does the quick service restaurant industry say? I mean, there are all little things to pick up there that you can apply to your business. So, thank
Yes.
you, Jessica, for sharing your wonderful nuggets with us. Again, Jessica Shea, Vice President of Wellness, Leisure, and Retail for Hilton in the Americas. Um, any Hilton you visit will be better off because Jessica and her team have been working hard behind the scenes. So thanks again for joining us today.
Thank you, Lisa.